Everybody come see us on tour. We'll be in Columbus, Dayton, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Lexington, Kentucky, Burbank, California, and Honolulu. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets.
Kamala, Mamala. She didn't run the outstanding campaign that crackerjack pundit, speaking of people who get paid millions of dollars to be wrong, Joy Reid said, and she wasn't the only one, but she was one of the main people saying this. This was a historic, flawlessly run campaign. Kamala Harris had every prominent celebrity voice. She's saying that is a good thing. Yep, nope, she's got her finger on the pulse of the nation. She's somebody who should really be paid to comment on broad sociocultural trends. Joy Reid. Real cost of Harris event with Oprah leaked as campaign struggles with bills. So this just keeps getting worse the more that is coming out about the drunken sailor style of spending that they applied to this campaign. If you gave money to this campaign, you can't be feeling very good right now. Vice President Kamala Harris's campaign, which spent $100 million per week during her condensed run for the presidency, is still flooding supporters' inboxes with requests for cash. Look, they could have forgiven all the student loans right here.
Yeah,
they could have just done it directly. That's led to heightened scrutiny about how the campaign spent its record war chest and still ended up no match for President-elect Donald Trump's MAGA roadshow. It's like the antique roadshow, but with more red hats.
Yeah.
Among the eye-popping expenses was a $1 million paid to Oprah Winfrey's production firm, Harpo Productions, for a town hall event the television star hosted with Harris in September. The full price tag for the event, meanwhile, was more than just the fee for Harpo. The New York Times, citing two people briefed on the details, reported Sunday that it amounted to $2.5 million. That amount is sure to further bewilder critics who had already falsely accused Winfrey of pocketing the money herself. Quote, "I was not paid a dime," Winfrey wrote in an Instagram comment. For the live streaming event in September, my production company, Harpo, was asked to bring in set design, lights, cameras, crew, producers, and every other item necessary, including the benches and the chairs we sat on, to put on a live production. I did not take any personal fee. However, the people who worked on that production needed to be paid and were. End of story.
So why didn't you pay him? Why didn't you donate the money? I mean, you're worth a fortune. Isn't this wasn't this an existential fight for the future of America?
Hang on. This kind of gets into that. Campaign finance law also prevents businesses from making campaign contributions or providing services to campaigns at below market rates.
So you're allowed to write them a check, but you can't donate products?
Apparently, yes. Apparently, you cannot make like an in-kind donation of services.
Of services? Oh, I didn't. Yeah, that's funny. I stand corrected. I did not know that.
I did not know that either.
Like, if you want to put on an event for a politician, but that's weird because don't facilities
honestly,
host
that
events
makes more
for politicians?
Sense because really, like these celebrities who clearly were for Kamala, like, wouldn't they donate their services?
Well,
like you would think they would.
Well, I never thought that the celebrities themselves were like getting paid, like profiting personally. But you would think like if it's a production company, I would think a production company would be allowed to like, you know, host an event. Like what if you wanted to host an event? Like Tyler Perry has his whole like studio soundstage set up in Georgia there. What if he wanted to host a rally? And he needed his people to show up. Couldn't he just pay his people to show up and work the event like it was any other event? Would that be illegal? That seems weird to me.
According to this, apparently, yes. Apparently, that is a violation of campaign finance law. So the real question here is less the perfidy of the celebrities than the stupidity of the money managers on this campaign. Like what, you know, I read Jonathan Pye in that classic video. He's a British comedian. If you've never seen it, he did a hilarious video about why Hillary lost after 2016. And one of the best lines in it, he says, "It's almost as if the political acumen of Beyonce and Jay-Z count for nothing. You would have thought they would have learned that lesson at that time. Like, look, I could understand appearing with celebrities. I don't think it really helps. I don't think it necessarily hurts. Like, the kind of people who were turned off by it probably weren't going to vote for Kamala Harris anyway. I don't know that it really, conversely, I don't know that anyone who wasn't going to vote for her would turn around and vote for her because of it. But that aside, spending this kind of money on that, like, what made you think that that was worth the millions of dollars they spent? So millions were spent on other celebrity events and high-profile concerts, with Lady Gaga and Beyonce among those to appear for Harris. Their effectiveness is now in question. Among other notable spending, according to the Times, was $2.5 million spent on 3 digital agencies that work with online influencers. Trump gained a significant amount of publicity stumping on bro-y and right-wing podcasts for free. Yes, he did. There was also $900,000 spent to reserve advertising space on Las Vegas's Sphere during the final week of the campaign. That is just dumb. Unsurprisingly, consultants, hangers-on, and other Democrats came begging for cash, and the Harris campaign obliged. This is what it's all about. This was really their objection to Bernie. He was going to drive all these people out. The whole money trough was going to dry up. To other that more than universal health care, more than any of his policy proposals, which they knew would get killed in Congress, it was him taking over the DNC and putting his people in, because what would Bernie have done? Whatever we might think of him now, and he's not our favorite person, but come on, man, he would have fired all of these people. And
this whole line of work would not have existed inside the Democratic Party if he took it over.
That's it. That was the issue. That was why he was an existential threat that they absolutely could not abide.
Right.
That's why we've talked about, why couldn't they have given Bernie, let Bernie win? Yeah, you would have gotten a little public option or something, and then, you never would have had Trump. He'd be leaving now. This is why.
No, he would have wiped their jobs out. He was like the Haitian migrant showing up to the factory to them.
Well, and this is like those parasites who, they eat the bug and take over its exoskeleton. This is the Democratic Party now. From being the paid help, this is the party. These consultants, these vendors, that's the party. It's a big grift.
Yeah.
To other party committees, like the Democratic Party in Philadelphia, for example, a total of near $25 million was given. Some Harris pals and allies got in on the largesse too. Talk show host Areva Martin earned $200,000 as a media consultant and toured swing states for Harris in October, the Times said. Journalist and commentator Roland Martin, who hosts a streaming show for his New Vision Media, earned $350,000 in September for a media buy, telling the Times it was for advertising and that more should have been spent on Black-owned media. The Times said that the Harris campaign likely spent close to $600 million on producing and buying media ads for television and digital. It's like the old story about the Chicago ad man. The dog food producer comes and says, we've tried everything and we can't sell it. He says, maybe the dogs don't like the food.
Right.
The Democratic National Committee's finance chair said he will push for an introspective study and analysis of how Harris's campaign blew through $1.5 billion. In a note to the party's top fundraisers sent Friday, Chris Korg wrote the campaign getting routed by Trump in all 7 swing states shocked us all, and said the DNC will need to take a hard look at how it is structured. Yeah, that's what we call pulling in Israel. We're going to investigate.
Yeah,
we are going to write a very thorough report on this. Meanwhile, emails asking for donors to give to the Harris Fight Fund are still going out as spending decisions during the race are being relitigated. Harris did outperform in swing states over national results, which some of her allies have used to argue as proof she was an able campaigner. Okay. There is not a single expenditure in a different spot that would have changed the outcome of the race. Now, that may very well be true, so you could have saved yourself the $1 billion, right?
Well, I mean, another way to look at it, that last piece there, well, she outperformed the average in swing states. I mean, what that tells you is that she was weaker than they expected in solid blue states, which she was. I mean, she only won Illinois by single digits. She won New York by only 11 points, 11 or 12 points. So yeah, she underperformed in the blue states. Now, you could say there that the campaigning made a difference in the swing states. Well, campaigning always makes a difference. If it didn't, you wouldn't do it. Right. But to say that, well, she really shit the bed in Illinois, too. So that means you really can't, bust our balls too much over this waste of money in the swing states. Like, the whole campaign was just make work. I mean, it really feels like, in retrospect, they kind of knew they were going to lose all along, and they figure, let's just raise a bunch of money,
cha-ching,
and blow it. Cha-ching, right? Exactly.
Let's get
paid.
Listen. Well, tell them it's the politics of joy. They'll eat that up.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah.
The donors will love that. There is not a single expenditure in a different spot that would have changed the outcome of the race, Bakari Sellers, a Harris ally and former member of the South Carolina House of Representatives, told the Times. We had so much money, it was hard to get it out the door. God, these morons who wrote checks to these people. I was getting those. I couldn't report it as junk enough to not keep getting those texts to donate to the Harris campaign. Emergency alert! 400% matching donation if you donate by midnight every freaking day. So Kamala Harris, here's how they spent their money. Kamala Harris blew 6 figures on building the set for disastrous Call Her Daddy podcast interview. And this, by the way, is because Harris wouldn't just fly to her set, which is already built. She had to make her come to her, kind of like what she tried to do with Rogan, and he refused. Right. So they spent $100,000 to build this set that people's estimates of what this should have cost to build range from about $6,000 to $20,000, assuming union labor. $100,000, that's just you just got it to burn. And you're not even asking any questions about costs. So this was on. This is one of the big donors and bundlers for the campaign. She's been making the rounds, Lindy Lee, and talking about how horrified she is, especially because as a bundler, she's well connected and got other people with money to donate.
Yep.
Look this up because it's all public records. Oprah today is denying that she got paid $1 million, but it's right there in public records. You can see $1 million going to Harpo, which is her production company, $1.8 million for Eminem, $3 million to Lizzo, $5 million to Meg Thee Stallion. What does it make you think about the way they spent $1 billion?
If my donors had known that in advance, they wouldn't have given. This is just ridiculous. And I'm sorry to say that. Well, every time I criticize something, I can just hear, I can just feel the knives being thrown in my back, because it's like a very insular community. But again, at this point in my life, we're not allowed to curse here, right? I don't care. This is just the right thing to do. Can you imagine people giving $25 or $50 and it means so much to them and they see that that money was used to build a fake set or to give it to a billionaire like Oprah?
Yeah. They're going to have a hard time, I suspect, getting the real money people to give them money next time. Like, they are really, really screwed. And this is going back to the Morning Joe thing. They know it. They know where the winds are blowing. Is the Democratic Party even going to be a going interest in the next 10 years? I don't know. I think their donors feel very burned, and their neoliberal philosophy and the contradiction at the heart of it, trying to be a Wall Street owned party, claiming to be a left party, it finally all came apart. It came apart. Now, where do they go from here? Where do they go? You got the super wealthy donors. In the end, they're rich and they want to stay that way. They're going to go align themselves with Trump and his allies. You're going to lose a lot of those people. And the ones who genuinely have these liberal convictions, how are you going to convince them again that the Democratic Party is a proper steward for those convictions?
Yeah. I mean, I think in certain state races in the midterms and stuff, they'll be able to raise some money. But in terms of the next national campaign, yeah, man, I mean, that is going to be a very heavy lift. It's going to be a very heavy lift. Now, of course, they have a primary, so you're going to have, you know, some competition there in the early going. But, you know, I suppose it's too soon to tell what the next 4 years have in store, what kind of opportunity they see. But they have dug themselves a major hole. And the guy who dug themselves this hole, I mean, we got into this in detail a few times over the past few weeks, so we don't have to rehash the whole thing. But at least as it pertains to the last couple years, it's at the feet of Joe Biden. It's at the feet of Joe Biden, who had no business running again. I mean, that's what they could have avoided all of this had he not run again. Because had he not run again, they would have had a primary. And they may have lost, given Biden's record, they probably would have lost. But they could have said, at least in that example, you know, they went through a process and, you know, through whatever process they set up, which is, of course, we're talking about the DNC. It's not a fair process, right? But they would have done that dance for themselves and given themselves, in their mind at least a case they could make in their own minds to themselves and their donors. We tried to give ourselves the best chance to win. You really can't say that this time. The fact that Joe Biden stayed in the race as long as he did set them up for disaster, and disaster is what visited them. And they can't look back at this and say they gave it their best shot. They didn't. They let this narcissistic, senile, old, dying piece of garbage just run their party into the ground and bury them. And now they, like I said, they have a long way out of this hole they've dug themselves in.
Also remember, part of a primary process is essentially you're building a fandom for a political celebrity.
Right, exactly.
That primary process draws people in. They become fans and backers of this particular candidate. And then when they win, you have these fans who are going to go out and advocate for these candidates.
Right.
I think what you see here, because Trump, although his demographic shift, he didn't really pick up much in terms of raw vote.
No.
But the Democratic vote collapsed. And part of that is because they didn't have a primary. You never built that army of people who were going to advocate for Kamala Harris. One day she's one of the least popular, if not the least popular vice presidents in the history of polling. The next day, she's the nominee for president.
Everybody come see us on tour. We'll be in Columbus, Dayton, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Lexington, Kentucky, Burbank, California, and Honolulu. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets.